Hello, this is Captain, and welcome to the Build Challenge Charlie results. We have some great builds here for the beginner base tanker challenge, so let's go ahead and take a look at them. All right, so let's start by going through the rules here. So, Build Challenge Charlie rules. This challenge is to build a beginner base fluid tanker. Sea base challenge, this is to be a boat/ship. The spirit of the challenge to build a tanker that can be used to move oil, diesel, jet fuel. This can be to either fill the tanks at the base or used to make profit in career game. The build size will be limited to the beginner base. Infant electricity and fuel will be off. Vehicle damage will be on. A new build not previously released in the workshop. Let's operate in the honor system here. This should be a newly started build at the time of the challenge. XML, cosmetic only, size, whatever will fit in the beginner base, power, anything but glitches and infinity. Cost 50,000. Commodity tank must be separate from the ship's personal fuel supply. Seawater will be used to test the tank in its full state. Testing methodology. I'll launch the ship at the Coast Guard beginner base. I'll take it for a short ride towards the hospital island to test the general operations empty. I will then turn on 100% wind to test the general operations empty. I'll fill the tank with water, then test it out towards the hospital again, and then I'll turn the wind back to 100% again. So you'll get an empty and a full test. Grading. Spirit of the challenge. How well does it conform to the spirit of the challenge? 1 to 10. Human factors. How well I'm able to interact with it. Fluid capacity. How much does it hold in its commodity tank? Stability. How well does it handle 100% wind, full of commodity and empty of commodity? 1 to 10. Workshop page 1 to 10. Winners. You can only win in one category. The points winner, captain's favorite, community favorite. Winners will be featured at the end of the credits of my videos for a month. Winners will have Discord roles added. Guidance video. I made a video here. You can check that one out. That was just me kind of building it, showing a couple of systems here. And then here's a picture of where the test area is going to be. So spawn at the beginner base. I'm just going to go right through to the hospital, and we'll kick on 100% wind at some point in there and test it out. And here we have our first entrance. So this is Mr. Black Beaver starter tanker. Nice thumbnail here with custom lettering in there. Let's go through some of the pics. Some nice pics here. Alright, Mr. Black Beaver starter tanker by Mr. Black Beaver. Mr. Black Beaver starter tanker. Important notice. Under no circumstance should anyone repost this vehicle to my position. If you significantly modify it, both the looks, about, and logic, and wish to post, contact me prior to posting it. Description. This is the most dangerous slash safest tanker that I've made. It also happens to be the first. 100% all the logic was created by me with some help in minor areas. I was inspired to create this from Captain's Build Challenge. Charlie will be putting up forth the challenge when submissions open. This ship will serve my career save greatly, and I'm happy to share it with everyone who is on the workshop. It is important to note this is meant to be a coastal fuel carrier. Do not take it into deep water with high waves. If you take it to the refinery, check the weather prior to sailing over the refinery. The ship does not handle well in super high waves. Features has 24,000 liter capacity for its commodities tank, 5,250 liters of dedicated fuel to propel the ship, automatic ballast and bilge pumps, very cool startup sequence, automatic lighting, a heading hold, equipment needed for career, dock thrusters, under 50,000, fuel efficient startup procedure. Before we even start the guide on starting the ship up, please, for the love of God, don't start the starboard engine before the port, please. Huh, that's all I'm going to say. That's interesting. Step 1, go into the engine bay and head to the port engine panel. Down the steps, flip the master power switch, flip the auxiliary power switch to the off position, turn the key, press the unlock button, repeat step 3 and 4 for the starboard. Operating manual. There's something missing here, but we'll go through. Both engines usually act in unison, so the starboard controls won't work unless you press the desync button on the control panel. Note, if the engine goes into a stalling loop, press idle engines to reset the problem. This is mainly caused by a rapidly changing throttle. Make sure to let the engine rev down before going into reverse, and vice versa. Fueling instructions. To fuel the ship, hook a fluid hose up to the hose anchor besides the commodity arm to control panel, and open the yellow fill valve. Once finished fueling, close the fill valve. Cargo pumping instructions. Pumping is the name of the game when it comes to tanker ships, and this one is no different. I've got a fairly simple setup for using the pumps. As long as you follow the instructions, you'll be fine. Here's the insurance statement there. Step 1, before you start pumping, press the pumping mode switch on the port side pump panel. Leave the switch on until you have concluded pumping. Depending on if you need extra reach, you can unlock the commodity arm and extend it out. Attach a hose you can find on the deck of the ship to the end of the commodity arms. Step 4, press the pump in and out switch on the fuel arm control panel, depending on if you are loading and unloading. I know I said it before, but turn off pumping mode after you've unloaded loaded. And there's some updates there. Right, so here's the first build. It said in the description to wait for the ballast tanks to fill. So the ballast tanks are bringing this bow down. You see the bow sitting up high. One thing I recommend is if you put water spawners in there, you can just put seawater spawners in there. You can kind of set it where you want it, and then it will start water fill, but it won't take long. I've tested this a couple times trying to fix some game issues, so that's not a big problem, but that's just a recommendation. I really like the sign here. It says no safety, smoking first. That's cool. Good detailing up here. I'm checking my fuel there, so let's go ahead and go in here. Let's double check, make sure we have some fuel. So dedicated fuel is full, 5,269 liters. Let's go down to the engine room. So we need to start by doing master power, auxiliary power off, unlock the starter. Goes through a cool startup procedure. We get a buzzer, we get the red lights there, and then as it starts, we get green lights. Nice. Then we want to start the starboard. I'm not sure why it says don't start the starboard first, but it does, so we'll follow what it tells us to do. Alright, we'll take a quick little walk around here. So I have some equipment up front. These are the ballast tanks. Nice labeling there. It's always good to see labeling. These are the commodity tanks. A little bit unconventional, but interesting. Some bilge pumps down there, a stability weight. A lot of exposed microcontrollers and stuff. We're not going into looks on these, but you know, that's not part of the challenge, so we won't go into that. I'm going to go ahead and turn on nav lights and mast lights. The engines are on. I'm going to use the thrusters. So I'm going to tap them over. You can see on the H menu, they're there. They're a little bit touchy. I've tested this a little bit already. They're not bad. They're just a little bit touchy. So like, see, I'm struggling to get a good control of this. Let's go down and power here. A nice granular power control. Let's see if I can steer out of here with the thrusters. There we go. Not too bad, but they're overpowered. Like, I just barely tap them and they go, so not a big deal, but just seems a little bit overpowered. But, you know, it also could be that I'm just not used to this particular vehicle. As we head out here, we're just going to do a stability test going to the hospital island. Looking at the H menu, AD's rudder, left, right is dock thrusters. 1 and 2 are port thrust up and down. 3 and 4 are starboard thrust up and down. 5 is reset throttle, and these are synced as standard. So we have heading, hold, lock, heading, our heading. We can put our desired heading in there. Foghorn, cruise, RPS fuel efficiency. This is our fuel tanks for our engines. Cargo fuel, if we look at our settings here, I'm doing infinite fuel off, infinite electric off, vehicle damage on. Total cargo volume 0, we have X and Y coordinates. Port engine RPS, RPM, temp, wind speed, outside temp, starboard RPMs, and starboard temp. So a nice simple backup compass, always nice to see. There's our speed and knots. The lights are automatic inside. That's just a preference thing, so that's fine. Alright, so nice and stable heading out. If we look, we're nice and flat. A little bit bow down. Oh, I did damage. Alright, I damaged it a little bit, so that's a me problem. That's not a build problem. But let's go ahead and turn around. I like the pixelation on the paint there. Overall, it's a nice look. It's a nice looking ship there. Nice faked rudder there with some real rudders hidden in there. Let's go ahead and we'll knock the wind up to 100%. Alright, so let's fight this wind here as we go. Pretty good speed there. We were going 14 knots initially. So a little bit of a struggle fighting 100% wind here, but it's stable. So the test is stability. It's not, you know, it's not anything else. So the whole point is when you're bringing in a lot of liquid, whether it be your commodities or you're running with a lot of air volume in there. It's important for a tanker to be stable because it's bringing in a lot of liquid weight, which is a lot of mass. So one of the reasons why this part of the test is if you put your tanks all the way really high, you'd have instability problems and it would roll over. So that is the main feature, the main reason why stability is on here, is to make sure that this isn't going to essentially roll over. Is if you have it set where your center of gravity is too high with the commodities tanks full, you're going to have stability issues. So we're having no stability issues here with it empty. It has plenty of ballast water. Again, this was the whole reason for this part of the challenge, is to make sure you're using your ballast system correctly. Your ballast system should keep you stable whether you're full or empty. So that is passing this test, no problem. So let's go ahead and I'm going to bring it back to the workbench. And we'll bring wind down to 0. All right, so my methodology for testing the commodity tanks is what I'm going to do is take a spawner and I'm going to stick them in the commodities tanks and I'm going to fill them with water. This just saves me from having to go, drive somewhere and fill it up with oil or whatever. This is just a quick and easy way to test it and make sure that they're all tested equally. So we're going to fill that 100% with seawater. We'll spawn it in. All right, so this is back in the world here. And let's go ahead and get in. And as we can see, our total cargo volume is 24,000. That's a good bit of liquid. Let's go ahead, master power on, that's off. Let's go ahead and turn that on. I'm going to try not to hit things on the way out of the dock. It was my fault, just, again, I'm not used to this vehicle and how it performs, so nothing wrong with it, but it's, it's just me trying to get used to how this vehicle operates and what's the correct way to operate. So we'll do nav light, mast light on. All right, that engine is up. Let's just quickly look. So our bow's facing perfectly forward, so I'm just going to gently... I was also doing too much thrust right off the bat, so let's go 1 notch. There we go. You going to give me some thrust here? There we go. All right, it's going now. I'm just going to do a little bit of side thrusters, lateral thrusters there. Okay. All right, so here we go. We're full throttle. We're doing 14 knots with our commodities tanks full, as you can see. So we have full cargo tanks. If we look, we're sitting, it looks like a little bit lower in the water, but we're nice and level, so that's good for stability. So I'm just going to do some turning here really quick. Nice bit of turning. No problems, no stability. I'm not leaning or anything, so stability is working well. Stability is a big feature of this challenge because it's so important for oil tankers to be stable. Like I was saying, you're taking on huge quantities of mass, and you need to make sure that mass is positioned correctly. See how it functions in the waves. I don't think it's going to have any issue here. So nice and stable as we go through here. I'm going to go abeam the wave here, so we have a nice big wave here. Let's go sideways, make sure that it behaves itself. Yeah, we're having no problems here. It's nice and flat, sits really well. So this is the next build is the LRM Tubby Starter Tanker Mobile Refueling / Recharging Vessel. So nice bit of detail on the thumbnail here. We have its name, what it does, less than 50,000, its cargo capacity, its range. Let's take a look through here. Some nice pictures on here. Kind of brings you in. A cross section is nice to see. I don't see that often. That's neat. All right, this is by Captain Leroy. Designed for my challenge, Charlie. Do not upload original or edit without permission. Welcome to Captain Leroy Manufacturing. Looking for a way to transport fluids from base to base, or maybe do some resource trading? Well, look no further than the LRM starter tanker, aptly named Tubby for the bathtub resembling design. On board, this old girl can haul 45 to 50 liters of any desired fluid in its cargo bay while maintaining 18 knots. She has a range of over 50 kilometers, very capable offshore. Tubby can also be used for recharging an all-electric Vehicle via engine gen cable connector on main deck or shuttling fuel to stranded vessel. Not enough fluid capacity for you. Tow a tanker barge behind for more capacity using the provided ropes and anchor points. Did we mention she can be spawned at all docks? Less than 50,000 mass, length, width, height. 15,000 liters of water ballast. 45,250 of cargo. 3,400 liters of diesel. Day tank and main tank. I'm not sure what the difference between those are. I'm not going to go through all these, but nice detailing. It really talks about everything on there. We have starter procedures. I'm not going to use the autopilot. I don't know. Let's see. Every so often, the day tank will require refueling, so do so. Okay. Filling with cargo. So a lot of good instructions here. All right, so looking at the Tubby here, it definitely lives up to its name of being Tubby. It's definitely designed to, be as fat as possible to hold as much commodity. So looks a little bit strange, but again, that's part of the whole thing is to, it needs to fit in the beginner base. So this is kind of a way to make it hold more capacity. So let's go ahead and spawn it. All right, let's jump on. So it's nice and wide, should be pretty stable here. Not a huge fan of like seeing compass sensors looking here. Looks isn't really part of it, but that can factor into whether it's my favorite here. So we have cargo pumps and fluid connectors. I'm not gonna actually pump it up. So life ring there, simulated life ring. So this is neat having these ladders to get up to the taller bases. It's an interesting thing to do. That's innovative. What do we have here? That's the gate. That's neat to get on and off. So there's probably a symmetrical one over there. What's that? Alarms. Okay. Leave that as it is. A little bit cartoony inside, but not too bad. Let's see. That's the remote control for the crane. I'll go ahead and I'll start looking at starter procedures. All right, so starter procedure. Enter bridge, enable lights if dark. Go to engine room and open all valves. Okay, engine room, open all valves. All right, so this is sleeping quarters. Kind of very basic inside here. This is the engine. Open all valves. Okay. So we shall follow the procedure. All valves. All right, so I believe that is all valves. Engineer, okay. Go back to bridge, start drive engines. Okay, back to the bridge. All right, and so let's see. We have clipping going through there. Not a huge fan of clipping. See, like I can't shut this door because... There we go. Because it's clipping through there. I just move that, have it open this way, and then you're not accidentally grabbing stuff. Let's see. Start drive engines. Okay. Drive engines. Alright, so we're looking... Okay, we're moving. I haven't touched anything. Alright. So the engines are trying to stall. We are moving, and I literally have not touched anything. So... Alright, so like I said, I have touched nothing except drive engines. We're already moving, so that's not good human factors. You don't want the vehicle doing things you don't want it to do. So right off the bat, it's kind of doing some things I'm not really. Again, I should be in control of the vehicle. It shouldn't be doing what it wants to do by itself. So that's a little bit of an issue. Let's see. Throttle up and head off. So let's check the H menu. Steering's 80, WS throttle. Left, right is bow thrusters. 1 is reverse. 2 is engines on, off. 3 is autopilot on, off. Trim fins up and down. Okay. Okay, so it looks like I manually have to trim this. Would be, it'd be nice if you had an automated system. I think you're going to find most people are automating their systems here. So I'm pressing 5, trim fins up. Let's try it the other way. Okay, so it's the other way. So the trim fins up and down is, I guess it's fine, but it's, it's not really telling me what's going to happen. If like you put bow, trim bow down, trim bow up, that would tell me what it's doing. So it's not really sitting level. You see how, so I have the fins all the way, so down. So I have the fins trimmed all the way, and as you can see, it's not sitting level, so we're not really all that stable in that regard. Let's go through some stuff here. So speed, we're going 20.00 something knots. Cargo level, which should be empty. Port, engine temp, and RPS. There's our fuel. There's main tanks. I'm not sure what the difference between the day and that, but that's fine. Starboard stuff. Bow to stern pitch. As you can see, we have a pitch in there. So that would be something like, I would like to see, you know, it automated with PIDs. Here are our ballast levels. There's our ballast there. There's an autopilot. I'm not going to go into that. There's crane. Nav lights. Anchor lights probably. Deck lights. Work lights. Okay, so red is on the left. That's fine. I can't see my stern light. Okay, there's no stern light. That's not a big deal, but there should be a forward-facing white light and a stern light. I'm not, you know, it wasn't a requirement, so I'm not going to go into that or ding anybody on that, but that's just for information. Let's test with full wind on. Okay, so we're lifting out of the water completely, so, and we're rolling over quite a bit. We're out of the water, so that's not really, okay, see, we're going to have stability issues here. Okay, so I am officially flying. So this really is not very stable if I'm flying. So you see, we're coming out of the water. Again, so if you set your max RPS on your engine to be the max speed RPS, it won't rev up like that. So you don't have good rev control of your engine on that one. So as we can see here, so we're not really stable empty. So figure we're going to have some stability issues with this boat. Alright, so let's go ahead and we'll pull it back on the workbench and we'll test it full. Alright, so back here, it auto ballast. Didn't take all that long, but as you can see, the ship is moving on its own. That is not good human factors if the ship's moving on its own. Like, literally, I haven't touched anything. You see it's moving on its own. The ship should sit, the prop should be off when I'm not doing anything, so that's a little bit of an issue. We talked about that before, though. Turn the nav lights on. All right, so let's go forward here. Pressing W. And again, I have to manually control this. Have to bring up the H menu. Have to do the trim fins. That should be automated, really. You know, what you're essentially, the reason why, you know, so you have a number of reasons why that is. Your center of thrust, where your engine is, way too low. I would raise that up. That should be as close to in line with the center of gravity as possible. So that propeller should probably be up some. You know, that's an issue. You can automate that with fins. That's one of the reasons why a lot of us automate that with fins, is because, you know, in real life, the propeller tends to actually point down a little bit to counteract that effect. And also, you have hydrodynamic forces that are keeping the boat from, you know, having the bow lift out of the water, especially a larger boat or a heavier boat. And so I would automate that. So go ahead, you know, PID and tilt sensor and learn how to do that. You know, ask for help on the Discord. I'm sure people will be happy to help with that, but automating that system will be helpful. Let's go ahead and go full wind. All right, so we had issues with this coming out of the water and flying. It might help to have a bunch of weight, but so the bow is completely going underwater. Okay, so this is the issue: is if you had an automated fin system, it would keep it from flying. There's no way I can quickly trim this constantly as we're going through the waves, so it's performing better with that extra weight in there. But you know, I would automate that system. So you see how high that bow's going. So like, I can't automate, I can't move the trim fins every time I go up and down a wave. That's why automating it with a PID and tilt sensor, but it's working a little bit better full, but definitely had a lot of stability problems when it was empty. We're coming out of the water. And like I was saying with the propeller is, like, if you know your max speed is 19, it's very simple. The propeller's a screw. What I would do is you read what your final RPS is on the propeller, and you limit the engine to that, essentially, so that you can't, so the engine doesn't rev up when the propeller comes out of the water. But I'm trying to see if we're going to come out of the water here. It's probably that extra mass is definitely helping us, but you definitely see we're bucking and going a little bit crazy over these waves. So I would automate that stability system, so it definitely is going to lose some points in stability. But neat boat, and thank you for submitting it. All right, and the next vessel is called Starter Tanker. I have just one thumbnail here, one picture. Just it still has a vehicle tab on it, which, you know, is personal preference, but tend to like to see that gone. This is by Bruce. Built for my challenge, takes 2 to 3 minutes to fill ballast when spawned. Okay. Again, put in spawners, man. If you put in a fluid spawner, like one thing you can do, put in a water spawner, fill it to 50%, and then if well, first of all, if you know that you're going to be spawning the vessel empty of oil, right? Fill it all the way up. So that's what I would recommend. So I'll even show you guys that. I'm seeing that a lot. Pre-fill it because, you know, it's not a big deal if you're doing it, but it's like, you know, you have to wait 2 or 3 minutes for it to be spawned. Fluid spawners under there. Tank capacity is 15,000 liters. Reverse can be turned on only when less than 5 kilometers an hour. Compass and map. Okay, so very basic workshop page. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the vehicle. All right, here we have the next build. This build here, so it says right in there it's going to take 2 to 3 minutes to fill the ballast when spawned. This is what I recommend people do. So I already tested this out and then had to start over again. So this here, it looks like the oil commodities tank. This looks like where our commodity goes in here. And so it has a spawner in there so that I can test it. In here, it looks like this is ballast water. So I'm just going to double check, make sure this is going where it's supposed to go. Okay, so this looks like that goes in here. That's out. Okay, so that's ballast out. Let's see where ballast in goes. I'm very interested what this piping's all about here. So that's ballast out. I'm just checking these to make sure I know what's going on here. All right, so this is ballast water in. Okay, so this is my ballast tank. So you told me it's going to take 2 to 3 minutes to spawn my ballast. This is how I do it. This is how I recommend you guys do it. Take a spawner. When you're spawning your vehicle, right, you know that you're going to have nothing in your commodities tank. So set this to seawater, fill it 100%. Now your ballast tank is going to spawn full. Then you don't have to wait 2 or 3 minutes. Now, the system will automatically empty and fill if you have an automated ballast system. So now I don't have to wait 2 or 3 minutes. So that is good human factors for you. You know, when you're using this yourself, when you spawn it, you don't have to wait 2 or 3 minutes for your ballast tank to fill. It now starts full, and it will automatically empty if your system is set up correctly. So you see, that's what I recommend is water's free in game. Fill up your ballast tank in a tanker from the start. So let's go ahead, and it has no instructions whatsoever, so I'm going to have to just kind of figure it out on my own. If I get something wrong, it's not on me because there's no instructions. And so that's not really good for the workshop page. It's always nice to see some instructions. How do you want me to operate your machine? For example, the first build told me don't start the starboard engine until you've started the first engine. I don't really care why. It doesn't matter to me why I'm only supposed to start one before the other. For example, in the airlines, we were supposed to start the number 1 engine before the number 2 engine. You know, and there were certain cases you would start 2 before 1, but you generally started the number 1 engine. Guess what? Didn't matter why. There were reasons, but that's what the manual told me to do. So if I screw something up, it's not really on me. So let's go ahead and do electrical circuit. Let's start the engine. So I always like to see good instructions. Reserve battery, lights, big light is the spotlight, map can come on. Battery, ballast tank. So the ballast tank, okay, liquid tank is empty, ballast tank is full, so they look symmetrical, that's good. So like I said, put a spawner in your ballast tank. You know you're not going to have any commodities, right? Your liquid tank. So start your ballast tank full of water. That will set you up so you're ready to go. Engine tap 1 and 2 and RPS 1 and 2. There's a compass there. All right, good. So let's get moving here. So literally no instructions, so I have to try to figure this out. So I have no throttle. Okay, maybe WS. If you look, the H menu is not filled out. So, yep, I'm guessing it's WS. So I have no clue. Do I have bow thrusters? Nope. The workshop page was lacking. This doesn't have much in the way of instructions. I don't see any thrusters, so that's fine. But again, it's always nice to see the workshop page filled out. Okay. Alright, so it has a sticky throttle, so I have to drive this like a car. Wow. Alright, so I'm going forward. I'm going to try to turn here. Alright, so it does have thrust limiting. It's steering with azipods, which is neat to see. But again, I have no clue what the controls are. I'm guessing here. So I'm just it's kind of standard, you know, AD for steering, WS, but put that on the seat. You know, you already put reverse on there, or revers. I don't know what revers is. Is that reverse? That's reverse. Okay. Revers is reverse. Put the other ones. Put AD is steering. Put WS is thrust. You know, when I let go, it stops like a car. It's always nice to see in a boat that it's sticky, but it's not a big deal. That's personal preference. Let's do a little stability test here of turning. So one of the things is I can go full on these azipods. And so as you can see, that's not really great. I show how to fix this in the career build series. If you put a stern speedometer on there, you can make it auto limit, and then the stern won't pull out of the water. But that's not a big deal. That's not really the stability I'm talking about. Might ding at a point for that, but it's not. You know, it's not really the stability we're talking about. I'm talking about the difference, you know, in ballast and commodities is what I really care about with this test. Because again, you need a stable tanker to be able to be stable when it has no commodity in it and when it's full of commodity. So overall, it's pretty stable. It's going to get a little bit of a ding on that, just the azipod limit. It's not fully coming out of the water here, so we're good. Seems to be functioning pretty well here. Yeah, the stability is pretty good on this. I'm going to ding it just a point for the azipod. Again, if you put a directional speed on the stern, you can control the azipods with that. I show how to do that in the career build series. But you see, we're going through heavy waves, no problem. It's operating nicely. Let's do a turn. You put in limiters on there. You can see the azipods are limited, so that's nice. That's good. But you know, I will ding it just a point on. You saw how the ship could almost tip over. It didn't. So it's just going to be a point. It's not a huge deal, but stability-wise, generally is pretty good, as you can see. All right, so that's pretty good. So let's go ahead and let's. It should be the same. You have symmetrical tanks. I will test it, but so what I mean by symmetrical tanks is the commodities tank is about 15,000, and the ballast tanks are about 15,000. So this is the commodity tank. We're going to drag that to 100%, and we'll put our ballast tanks back to 0. And they both hold about the same amount of liquid, so they should both be equally stable. And so that's a good setup. I like the way you set up your tanks. You have your commodity tank in the center of your ballast tanks. That's what I recommended to people. And there's a reason they do that IRL, is it makes them symmetrical so that they have similar ballast water to similar fuel. Now, in real life, of course, the density of water is greater than the density of the fuel you would be transporting, so you would have smaller ballast tanks than you would have commodity tanks, but in game they're the same density. So as you can see, I'm going to just put on trim here so I can go back and show you. But these do have actually have windows blocking them. But you see the commodities tank is now full of liquid. The ballast tanks are now empty of liquid. And I'm equally stable because they both have the same volume. Go ahead and go wind up. You know, I assume this is going to behave equally as well because, you know, you have just as much commodity as you have water. Yep. So, ooh, a little bit of flying there. Not too bad. You know, I'm not going to ding it anymore. I'm going to give that little ding before, but it's not as stable as some of the other ones. Probably just because it's lighter. It's holding less commodity. So, like, I can't... I'm starting to get it out of the water a little bit, so... You know, because this is the type of thing where in game this could cause your ship to flip. And, you know, if you're in a career game and you just spent an hour going and getting oil, or especially with the new oil update, you spent an hour going to your rig and getting oil, and you spent many hours getting that going, your first oil run causes you to capsize, that's going to be very frustrating. So that's why I put the stability in there. But this is operating really well. This is a cool ship. I really like the way it looks. It looks really clean. It looks really nice. I'm really liking the way it looks. The only downside I would say to this is the, you know, the workshop page is really pretty basic. And so human factors wise as well, I'm going to ding it a little bit for, let's do a turn, see if, okay, yep, it handled the turn fine. Human factors wise as well, you didn't fill out your H menu. You know, fill it out. WS is thrust, AD is steering. That's all you had to put, and that tells me what it does. I don't have to guess. You know, human factors, you should not have to guess what the machine is doing. You should know what the machine is doing. This is what prevents accidents. This is what makes it easy for you to operate. So, really cool vehicle. I love the way it looks. And thanks for posting. Right, and the next build is the Forehead Industry Spud, named after a delicious vegetable. So I like the look of this. Got a cool, unconventional, neat look to it. I really like the thumbnail. You know, thumbnail looks really cool, like the branding on there. You notice it has the same colorations as on the ship. So that's really cool branding. I like that a lot. There's the little details that make a workshop page. Is it imperative that your workshop page looks cool? No, but it shows effort and it shows work done. And one of the reasons why I add it to these competitions is, you know, you might not be the most advanced builder, but you say, hey, you know what, I can put a little effort into the workshop page. Or maybe my commodity is a little low and some other people have more commodity than me. I'll make sure I have a really good workshop page. So it gives you an area where you can catch up if you need to, or, you know, if you really like doing that sort of thing, it's acknowledged. You know, I really like it when somebody has a great workshop page. Made by the FOD. I really like these embedded pictures. These are cool. Again, really cool branding. It makes me want to read your workshop page. It brings me in. It makes me interested. So, built for my challenge, Charlie, named after a potato for its streamlining. I love the Spud, delicious potato. Less than 50, starter base, 37,000 liters of fluid from oil refineries. Spud is designed to transport large quantities of fuel slowly and relatively efficiently to minimize the number of round trips needed to fill empty a given location. I talked about this before where it tends to be better, have a large capacity, slower speed, fewer trips because you know, you still have to walk up and down. You still have to do your crane if you're going to be filling with a crane. Still have to do all these things, so it's definitely nice to have a large capacity. As such, it has 13 knot top speed, which is good speed for a tanker, and comes with active stability systems and a GPS autopilot. Nice to see active stability systems. These features allow you to fill the tanker, set your destination and throttle, and AFK. That's big with tankering. I did a barge run right before the oil came out to get a little extra money in my career build series. It took me about 2 hours to do, and I moved 114,000 liters. And so it's going to take some time. It's nice to have autopilots because you can go AFK, so you can go do chores or whatever you have to do. Fluid can be transferred to and from the main cargo deck via the fluid connectors in the center of the deck of the winches. I like that. It tells me where it is. The last build with the workshop page, you didn't have a lot of detailing. So if I had to fill it up with fluid and I had to go to the platform and I had to fill it up, I would have to guess where everything is. And I could put, you know, diesel in or oil in the wrong tank. So it's always nice when you tell me. Empty contents pump is desired. Controls by both winches in conjunction with shore-based pump controls. Additionally, Spud has an automatic ballast system. Always like to see an automatic ballast system, which will attempt to compensate for boat pitch as well as cargo tank fluid level in order to prevent the boat sitting too high in the water where possible. Again, that's one of the main reasons why you have ballast is the higher the center of gravity, the higher the boat sits in the water, the more likely it is to roll over, especially in heavy seas. That's part of the main reason for these ballasting. Status ballast tanks and cargo tanks are viewable using either of the two wheelhouse MFDs. Startup procedure. Enter wheelhouse. Nice to have a startup procedure. Enter wheelhouse, bow of boat. Turn on master power and engine power. Wait for the RPS indicator to turn green. Throttle up as desired. Shutdown procedure. Turn off master power and engine power. You know, it really doesn't, if your boat is simple to operate, that's all it takes, and I know how to do it, and guess what? I don't have to guess. I'm not afraid I'm going to break something or it's going to do something, and then I'm afraid that I do something wrong, and you're going to get mad at me for not operating your boat. So, really nice workshop page, nice embedded pictures, really nice detailing here, really great workshop page. All right, here we are with the next build. This is the Spud. So let's go ahead and jump on the Spud. Actually, let's look at it from outside. This is a very unique look to it. I like, it's sitting a little bit funky. Let's hopefully it has auto ballast. Let's hopefully that does it. Again, I would recommend that your ballast tanks auto fill, start in the filled condition. I'm not going to ding anybody points on that, but that would be my recommendation. You know that you're not going to have any commodity. Fill the tanks 100% or like 80% or whatever you want them to be with spawners. That way it's sitting correctly. You don't have to wait for it to fill because, you know, you yourself, you might have to test it 10 times and you have to wait for it to fill every time. All you need is a spawner and it will it'll start filled. But really nice, cool, innovative design here. I really like this. This is neat. It looks really cool. It's, I like the front bridge, especially on a boat this small. Having a front bridge or pilot house is nice. I really like this, this design here. It's very unconventional and it's very kind of futuristic looking. I like that. I like that it has like kind of this rear room. Let's go ahead and jump on there. Lots of tie downs. You know, this one thing is tough is the ships look very square in this beginner base, and so that was one of the reasons for picking the beginner base was you have to come up with some interesting solutions to make a ship look nice. I didn't put looks in the category, but that does factor into my favorite. And so this, despite being wide and very square, it looks very detailed, so it doesn't look like a brick. It looks really cool. So let's go ahead and open up the rear here. Let's see what we have here. I'm going to close the door. I just want to make sure we don't get any water in here underneath. All right, so we'll just continue with a little bit of a walk around here. That looks like a porthole. So we have a bed in here. That's good for, you know, especially if you're going to go AFK, you can go park your guy in a bed. Have the engine down here. Still sitting a little funny. We'll see what happens. Maybe I have to turn the systems on. So a little bit of a cutout there so we can not fall in. I like that. That's neat. I like having this cool little area in the back here. That's neat. Here's all our pumping apparatus here. So that's neat. We can get up here to the radar. So that's all neat that you the design of this. It really looks cool. It gives it some good detailing. For what could be an ultra square build, it looks really nice. So let's go ahead and jump on the seat. So startup procedure. Enter wheelhouse bow of ship. Turn on master power and engine power. So master power, engine power. Simple, right there. Tells me exactly what you want me to do. I like that. Wait for RPS indicator to turn green. Engine RPS. Flashing yellow equals engine spooling up. Solid green equals flight RPS reached, huh? So we're having a little issue with the engine here. It sounds like an F1 car getting ready to start. If that's really doing 60 RPS, ooh. I'm curious about your cooling. Okay, so notice our tanks are filling now. Okay, so now our ballast tanks fill when we turn on power. Again, my recommendation, put some spawners in there. So like if you know your tanks are going to be around 2100, you can put in 10% water, 20% water. It's up to you, of course, but you would already start in the level position. You wouldn't have to worry about being a little bit cockeyed. You know, so what, you know, all you really have to do is start it up, see where these are going to fill. If they're going to fill to 100%, put 4 spawners in there. The water is free. It will automatically pump it out, throw it in the drink. You don't have a problem. But I really like these indicators. This is neat. I just saw them turn red. That's probably when they're pumping out. So stab. So see they're pumping out and in. So that's really neat. So good work on this. So again, I would put in 4 water spawners, and I would just set them to whatever 3,600 liters is. You know that's where you need to be. H menu here. We have 6 spotlights. Throttle up as desired. So let me try WS. Okay, WS doesn't do anything. I'm just checking. I would label AD. You don't say how to steer. It's pretty obvious probably that it's AD, but I would put it on there. Put it on the H menu. I always like to see a filled out H menu. It just makes it so you don't have to guess. We have our 4 tanks. Let's go cycle MFD. There's map. We can go to radar. That's pretty cool. I like that. Back to tanks, and then this is reversionary. I can check the other side. So that's cargo. Cargo. Okay, cargo 0. This side's not showing, so that's interesting. This looks like autopilot. All right, let's start going forward. Okay, that's a little bit funky. All right, so what I would do is I would work on your idle. Let's bring this throttle back a second here. All right, so it seems like your p-value is too... Okay, now it's... Okay, we're in reverse. All right, let me go. That's fine. Let me go. I like it that, you know, I like it that you have it forward and back are reverse and forward. I see a lot of people are doing it like, you know, they have a reverse gear. Oh, wow. Stand by. Stand by, stand by, stand by here. I'm having issues here. Okay, let me try all the keys, make sure I can't control this. So, human factors-wise, I would like to see this throttle also on the keyboard somewhere. I have to look down here. Notice I have no clue where I'm going if I look down here to operate the throttle, especially if I'm going in reverse. I can't look out to see where I'm going. What I would recommend is, like, if you want to do 1 and 2 for the throttle so that I can operate it with my keyboard, I can look outside and steer where I'm going. I would recommend that. Also, if I, you know, I could do it in third person if I wanted to, but I would recommend that. This is I would recommend you fix your engine RPS. Like, the engine is revving like crazy. I would fix your idle. You know, set an idle and have that idle be your starting position. Let's watch this. I'm gonna quickly try to do this. Press E, K. So it almost stalls the engines. What I tend to do is have it auto clutch. Again, that's personal preference. You're not going to get ding-ding points on that. You know, it lifts the bow up crazy. It's not a big deal, but that would just be my recommendation for a little bit smoother operation. So this looks like it's jumping all over the place. Not sure about that. Engine RPS is pretty stable. Maybe a high p-value, but maybe a little bit of a high p-value, but not bad. Engine temp, I'm kind of surprised the engine temp is doing as well as it is with it revving that high, but it is. Okay, that's pretty good. Speed knots, 16 knots. That's a good speed, especially for a tanker. Whoa. Okay, we're gonna play with this some. All right, so we're gonna get a little bit of a ding on stability, as you can see. You know, if you watch some of my career build series with my tugboat, I show you how you can limit this. All you have to do is put a linear speed sensor facing one direction on your stern, and you can limit it with a function. I show how to do that with Azipod. That's how you can make it so your Azipods, as the stern goes too fast, you can use fins to control it. So if you put 2 fins on those Azipods, like I did, you can control that. And then, see, like I'm going full speed, I shouldn't be able to go full deflection. You notice I should be able to get this thing to roll over. So that is a stability problem. You know, so, you know, you could say, hey, don't control it like that, but, you know, okay, you do have side fins. So part of, you know, stability is making sure that, you know, it's not easy, because imagine, like I said last build, if you went and you spent an hour going, getting the oil, filling it up, you're almost back, you're about to make pay dirt, you just went and you built a drilling platform, you're like 20 hours in, and you're excited to go finally make your first profit, and your ship rolls over. How annoyed are you going to be? So that's going to get a big hit on stability. At some point I'll do a tutorial, but if you watch the career build series, I have this with my tugboat. It has Azipods, and it uses fins to make sure it doesn't roll over, and it also limits them so that the faster you're going, the less you can turn your propellers, and so that's something I would recommend. So gonna get a hit on stability on that. So I'm gonna take this back to the workbench, and we'll fill it up with commodity. All right, so the commodity tank is now full. Let it settle for a minute. And we're going to go ahead and we'll kick on the power so that will ballast itself up as soon as possible. Again, nice work here. I see what's going on here now. So here's your center commodity tank. These ballast tanks are currently empty. They'll probably stay empty, I'd imagine. Nice work on that. Like I said, there's a little bit of an issue here where this one is not showing the same. You're not going to lose any points on that, of course, but it's just something just to let you know that that's not reading the same information that this one is. All right, so that is cool. I really like this. Is really good work on the XML, the Lua in here. All right, so let's go forward again. All right, so it's trying to stabilize us with a little bit of water, which is a neat feature. All right, we're going, yep, you said about 13 knots. We're going 14. So we're going to test the stability here. I'm going to try to roll it over again. I know you probably hate me for trying to roll it over, but again, this is part of stability, is if you can turn the boat over, it's not that stable. And you can fix this with fins, and you can fix it with limiters, like I did in the career build series. So I would recommend, go ahead and check that out. I will try to get, if people are interested, I'll try to get, wow. If people are interested, I will try to do a tutorial on doing Azipod stability at some point. It took me a little while to figure it out, so it's it's complex. I'm not faulting anybody for that. It definitely takes a lot of effort and work, but I'll try to do a tutorial at some point. So let's go 100% wind. I'm going to steer into the wind here. Okay, so I'm struggling because the Azipods are not stabilized, that it's just, some controllability issues. All right, so it's behaving well in the heavy seas here. Again, it's rocking and rolling more than others. You see how, like, oh, I'm just having some issues controlling it here. But I love Azipods. They take a lot of extra work. So I'm glad you tried out Azipods. I will at some point try to get out a tutorial. I figured that probably will be helpful for people of how to stabilize Azipods. But it's handling this pretty well, but it already is losing stability points. Like here I am trying to rotate it as best I can. Like look at that, the bow's underwater. And we're gonna go over here probably. Like you can see that we're having some stability problems here. I'm trying to be as fair as possible, but like I am literally just trying to steer back towards Hospital Island, and there's no way you could walk on the deck here. This is like, we're having some stability problems. So I think, I think that's fair to say we're having some stability problems here and to gig this a little bit on stability. But really cool vessel. I love the way it looks. It is very square, but because of your really good design choices, it doesn't look like a brick. It looks really cool and interesting. I really love the roof lines on there. Good detailing in here. Good color scheme. Great workshop page. I think you have the best workshop page so far, but really cool vessel. I love the name, the Spud. It's really cool. So thank you for posting this. I really like checking it out. All right, and here's the next build here. We have the Frog Industries T1L30 tanker. So nice to see some branding on here, a little bit of flash on the thumbnail. Always cool to see, man. It really makes you want to check it out. Like if you look at some of the thumbnails on the workshop, it's hard to find some of the cool builds because, you can see if somebody has like a basic thumbnail, it could be the best build in the world, but you may not want to check it out because you're like, it doesn't look that interesting. So having a nice thumbnail can often draw people in. Some nice pics here. All right. Frog Industries T1L30 by Sergeant Cheesecake. Frog Industries TL130 tanker. First ever tanker, good choice. Pioneering tankers and barons wishing to start out small. Coming in at a price point of 30 grand, so this is nice and cheap. Capable of carrying 30,000 liters with a good commodity. Speed of 20 knots, so it's actually a pretty good speed as well. Startup. Enter engine room through floor hatch, flip both breakers, turn both ignition keys, activate pumps, good to go. This is a little bit different. I like to see a different design. It's asymmetrical. It has the pilot house on one side. That's something different, nice to see. Go ahead and jump on there. So it says enter engine room through floor hatch. So let's go down there. It says flip both breakers, turn both ignition keys. And then it says activate pumps. All right, engine RPS. Okay. Hopefully that stops trying to restart itself and it just runs. Okay. And then let's see if we can get out of here. So we have to find the handle here and crouch and like try to yank ourselves out of here. You have plenty of space for a ladder. I just stick a ladder in there, but that's personal preference here. All right, good. That's shut. Let's go ahead. So that is all the instructions I have. So let's hopefully we can figure this out the rest ourselves. So we have throttle, forward, back, interior lights, spots, exterior lights, horn, throttle. So that's set to 4 RPS for idle. That's good. Fuel, current heading, target heading, RPS common. So it must do it must have them averaged. Temp average, knots, battery, pretty basic in here compared to the last one. But again, I'm not really grading on that too much. Bow ballast. What is that? Port starboard ballast. Okay. So that's bow ballast, port starboard. Large keypad. I have no clue what your large keypad does. I would label that. You can click on that and label it. We're on the helm. We have no H menu. Okay, so again, I'm trying to guess, so I have no clue how to operate your vehicle. So WS is throttle. Okay, we're stalling. All right, so you have some drive system issues here. They tried stalling the engines when I did WS. Again, I would put on the seat, fill out your H menu. I'm having a guess. That's not good human factors. If I have to guess what to do, it's not great. Like this, I could do throttle here, but also, okay, so see my throttle only controls through here. So I would make it that, okay, so maybe you don't want me to use WS, so I won't use it. But I would put AD. You don't have AD on there. Yeah, you don't have AD on there. I would put that on there. So my throttle is set to full. Throttle is set to 16 RPS. We are not moving. Okay. So your throttle is separate from your clutches. I would not do that personally. That's not the best drive system. So WS is your clutch. Again, you didn't label that. You didn't put that on the workbench, on the workshop. Let me double check, make sure. Yeah, you didn't put it on the workshop that I have to drive with WS. I have to throttle up. Put those instructions. Tell me how you want me to operate your vehicle. You know, so it's going to do that jumping thing where the bow comes up. So if I let go of WS, that's probably the clutch. So the engine is screaming, burning a ton of fuel, doing nothing. Now when I press W, it tries to do a wheelie. I'd combine those. Do an auto clutch. I have an auto clutch tutorial. I would recommend putting an auto clutch in there. That would make your system work a lot better. If you look at my initial modular engine tutorial, that's based on boats where you go forward, you go forward, you go backwards, you go backwards. Horn spots, interior lights, exterior lights, reverse gear. So you have a reverse gear. That's fine. I tend to like to see it where, you know, you go back and it reverses, but that's personal preference. It's not a big deal. Stability is a little bit iffy. As you can see, we have... yeah, stability is a little bit iffy. You see we're rocking and rolling, so... I'm going to try to roll it. You know, you saw the last build, I was trying to roll it. And again, that's all part of stability is... You know, there's something called pilot-induced oscillation with airplanes where you can cause it to oscillate and essentially break apart. And it's like, you know, you have to take into account that if it's stable, like I can go in a bunch of my builds with auto stability systems and I can't do this. They sit solid as a rock. Doesn't matter how quickly I grab the rudder, they stay solid. And so you think about it like you're coming up in the fog and you're going to hit an island and you quickly turn and you roll your boat over. That's not good, right? You don't want that. All right, so stability is a little bit iffy there. Let's see. RPS common. I'm looking for what your ballast is looking like here. Bow ballast. Okay. So let's go ahead and I'm going to turn on wind. Problem is I have to let go of the W key. So let's go into the wind here. See how it operates with no commodity. Stability's not terrible, but it's like I said, it's not the best. Probably just lose a little bit on that. Let's see how it functions in here. So the big test again is in game, if you get the props out of the water, the boat can do a backflip. And so that's certainly something that will ruin your game. Okay, so one thing is you're setting your RPS correctly. And listen, if everybody listens, one of the builds, I forget which one, when you came out of the water, the engine spooled up really high. And it, I think it was Tubby, I'm not sure. And it caused you to, you know, do backflips almost. This one is set properly where when I come out of the water, if you listen, I'll try to come out of the water here, the engines won't rev up. That's not letting me come out of the water. But I came out of the water a couple times, the propellers, and the engines didn't rev up. That's going to make sure you don't do a backflip. So that is good on that. But not the most stable. Like you see, look at, see we're sitting a little crooked there. You know, this is like Nausea City. So I'd work on that a little bit. It's not, you know, it's not terrible by any stretch of the imagination, but it certainly could use a little bit of stability work. All right, up and running. Let's go ahead. And so we're bow low, but I'm expecting, so port starboard ballast is 0, bow ballast is 0. All right, so we have no ballast in here, and we'll check it when we go there. So again, with this, you have to throttle up, and you have to do clutches. That's not realistic, but it's not a big deal. I'm not really working on, you know, that's not one of the grading criterias. A little bit of human factors ding on that, I would say. You know, a lot of people have taken the time and effort to automate their systems where you press WS or you go up with your throttle and it automatically will clutch for you, it'll automatically go forward, it will automatically go backwards, and they should be rewarded for all that extra engineering they did. And so that tends to be why you know, I grade them compared to the other builds you're doing. So you see somebody put in a ton of effort on their drive system and your drive system isn't as elegant, they're going to get a higher score than you are because they put more work into that. And so they're being rewarded for their work. And you might have done more work in another area, and so you get rewarded in that. So I kind of grade them on a scale. So like, for example, commodity, the person who has the greatest commodity is going to get a 10. The person who has the next greatest commodity is going to get a 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's how everybody's going to be graded. It's just going to be based on commodity. You know, you're being compared to your peers. You're not, you know, being compared to anything else than that. So stability is not bad. It's not great. It's not the best. Definitely, like, you know, you saw in the last build, like, I could literally roll that over. I'm trying as hard as I can to roll this over, and I can't. So that's telling me stability is pretty good. So it'll lose probably a point. It's not as elegant as some of the other stability systems. So the person who has the really super duper elegant stability system should get a 10. And one that's not as good as that should get a lower score. So, all right, so this is definitely, this is operating pretty well. It's operating a little bit better with some ballast in it, it looks like. But no issues here. It's stable. It can get the job done. Yep, even with, and I like it with this one, when the propellers come out of the water, they don't rev up crazy and do backflips. So that's really good. So I like this build. Thanks for submitting. Unfortunately, after spending about 20 minutes testing this vehicle, I found out that it is using an XML performance glitch, which is not allowed in the rules. So let's go ahead and look at the rules. All right, so back to the rules here. Right here, XML, cosmetic only. That means just visual items. You can do 1x3 blocks. You can do XML edited windows. You cannot XML edit anything for performance. Reason is it's not fair to your competitors. Everyone else is trying to play with a certain set of rules, and it is not fair to your competitors if you are violating the rules, frankly. And so you cannot do XML editing in this challenge for performance. And so this latest build, I found that it is doing XML editing for performance. So let's go ahead and look at the build. So go inside here. And I was almost done with it and then found these. So here are two rocket motors. This is the XML edited glitch for buoyancy. So let's go into the XML file of each of the builds. All right, so here's the XML of the first build, Mr. Black Beaver's build. Let's do Control F, fuel factor, find next. Can't find fuel factor. Bruce, let's find fuel factor. Can't find fuel factor. Spud. Can't find fuel factor. Frogs. Can't find fuel factor. Trailmaker. Can't find fuel factor. Tubby. Can't find fuel factor. The Bolobo. Right there. Fuel factor here. is using a solid rocket nozzle, fuel factor of -400. That is not a cosmetic XML edit. That is performance XML edit. That is not allowed in the rules. So everybody else followed this rule. The Blobo, unfortunately, is disqualified. I really hate to disqualify stuff, but it's not fair to competitors. It wouldn't be fair to every one of these other builds if I allowed it. So I have to disallow this. I have to disqualify this build, which is super unfortunate. I really liked it. So that's really sad. I wish I didn't have to do that. But unfortunately, that's a disqualification. Right, so moving on to the next build, we have the MT Trailmaker. So nice custom thumbnail here. Mini beginner tanker, 24,000 liter capacity, fits in the beginner base. So some pictures here. Nice. All right, this is by Thermite. Creation for Captain Cockerel's Gaming. Build Challenge Charlie. This is the Black Dragon Industries motor tanker dubbed the Trailmaker. The name is totally not lame attempt at oil spill-based humor. I categorically, theoretically, and philosophically deny that any of my humor is crude, like oil. Good puns in here. A nice crude oil pun. Now to leave that mess, more good puns to the marketing and legal teams, we at BGI present the glorious and mystical and wondrous. I bet if I looked up glorious, mystical, and wondrous, we would find some oil spills. Tugboat that was purchased off Craigslist, then somehow managed to fit 24,000 liter commodity tank in, and Frankenstein the wheelhouse onto the stern. We somehow managed to be surprisingly environmentally conscious while being almost completely unconscious from lack of sleep. This mini tanker features a separate wall for hull and commodity tank to prevent unwanted disaster. There are many features, accidental and otherwise, on board this adorably proportioned thing. There's the aforementioned space from the hull commodity tank, as well as the same treatment for even the small diesel fuel tanks. The features go on, including a state-of-the-art menu system in Lua that the chief engineer of the project learned to do in one night. But anyway, the editor in this showcase text description abomination is getting tired of editing rambling, unneeded smart remarks, quips, and savage advice. The rest of the feature stats and operating guides will be listed below. Buy our product, please. So here's some stats. It's under 50. Good. Let's see. Won't go through too much of that. Features. There's all the features. You can read that. Guides. If you should fall into the water, there are handles on the side of the hull. Due to space constraints, ladders were not an option. These can be tricky to navigate. Grab one of the highest ones on the hull. Look down the moment. Lift your character up. Quickly grab the handle on the side of the wheelhouse. Crouch on board. Less than ideal, yes. Allowing only limited access to facilitate more commodity storage. Absolutely. So that's cute. You know, it talks about how you couldn't put in ladders because you're confined in the base. So it's a nice little story to go along that. I like that. So we have our starter procedure. Gonna go through that as I operate it. All right, here we are at the final build. So let's take a little look-at-loo here. Trailmaker. It's nice to see a named vessel and the name on there. A little bit different of a shape. You know, less boxy, no smoking signs, nice to see on there. Nice little bit of detailing on there. I like that. A little bit of details here and there. That's cool. What is that? Looks like winches. No smoking signs, nice. Some hoses, some ropes. Nice storage there. A life ring. Ooh, I'm afraid to fall off the back of this. Let's see how we're getting in the sucker. All right. Oh, whoa. I'm so afraid of falling off the back of the sucker. All right, so let's go ahead and I'll bring up the instructions. All right, so we want to I'll go through the start procedure. So proceed to the engine room and locate the electrical panel. All right, so let's find the electrical panel. So very nice. I like the detailing in here. As you can see, we it's good warnings. This is really cool detailing. This makes me smile. I like that. Behold the witty warning labels. I didn't even read it yet. I beheld the witty warning labels. Switch on main bat. Okay. Bridge power. Engine room power. Okay, good. Turn the ignition key located on the front of the engine casing. Okay. So engine casing. Front of the engine casing. I just want to look in here. I know this is probably so tools and stuff. I saw a door and I wanted to touch it. I like these diesel tanks. These are neat. That's a cool engine room. I like this. All right. I'm trying to find what I'm reading again. Turn the ignition key located on the front of the engine casing. Okay, right here. I just couldn't see it because of the belt drive. All right, so it's cool. Nice little procedure down here. I love the labels. I love the way the diesel tanks look. Things are labeled. Really good labeling in here. Proceed to the bridge. I shall. Here's lights. What is this over here? I'm just kind of doing a little tour as well while we're in here. You know, people take the time, put in this detail. Looks like a harbor gen. I like to take the time to kind of go through and look at it as well. So. All right, let's go on up. Have a little bit of a sitting area here. A little bit of detailing on the floor panel to make that for the floor coloring like that. All right, proceed to the bridge. Turn on nav lights and bridge lights. Okay, radar toggle, man. Okay, heater. Let's see, nav lights, bridge lights. Okay, good. Boot up monitors. Monitors, there we go. Nice boot screen. Black Dragon, very cool. Industries. So it's nice, you know, that shows some extra effort going into XML editing. That's always nice to see. Boot up monitors. Okay, so that's all it tells me on that. Let me just triple check, make sure. So we have cargo handling, anchoring. Okay, so that's all we really need for this challenge. So let's see, radar toggle, maneuver thrusters, radar's on. I'm not going to turn too much on. Maneuvering thrusters, emergency transponder, harbor gen, raise anchor, drop anchor, firefighting pump, heater, knots, compass, clock, knots, RPS, fuel bat, deck lights, map zoom. Okay. So let's open the H menu. AD is rudder. Again, a sucker for an H menu that's actually filled out. Rudder's AD, WS throttle sticky. Good to see that. Space is the horn. 1 is reverse. Okay, good. So let's start going on out. So it's sticky. It's nice when somebody writes that. Just takes the guesswork out. Little bit tippy already. Little bit tippy. Not terrible, but little bit tippy. You know, and again, I try to grade these on a scale. So you have somebody who has a fantastic 100% super rock stable vehicle. Well, that one's, of course, going to get the highest score. And then below that, you know, you're going to lose some points. So it might seem like nitpicking at times, but, you know, it's accounting for other people. So we have a bow thruster. We have a stern thruster. I won't go through that, but that's neat to have. Pretty stable now. A little bit tippy, but not bad, you know. And again, the only reason I bring it up is because, you know, you have people who have ultra stable builds. So, all right, so that's pretty good. We're going pretty good. Let's look at our speed. Good speed, 14 knots. Let's go ahead and keep the wind on here. We'll start this off with some wind. I don't see any indication of ballast or anything like that. You know, it lets me quickly kind of check the situation. But we're going to check it now. I'm going to steer into the wind. So a little bit tippy. That would be the time in real life when you tip over, when you're beam the wind there, and you're beam the swells. So it's nice and slow to turn. A lot of people did ultra maneuverability, which the benefit of that is you can maneuver quickly. The disadvantage of that is it's when you maneuver a vehicle, you have to make it unstable to turn. Like if you look like at the Red Bull air racing planes, they're inherently unstable, and the reason is because they need to be able to change direction very quickly. They need to be able to roll very quickly. They're inherently unstable, and so when a vehicle is inherently unstable, it can turn more quickly. When it's more stable, it turns less quickly. So just kind of a little bit of interesting trivia there. Okay, good. So this is performing well. Let's bring this back to the workbench. Okay, so nice. So this is all right. This is sitting okay. It's a little bit bow heavy, but it's not terrible. It works. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll do this test, and we can finish up there. That's good. I'm glad I found that. I was really happy. I wanted this one to do well. I want them all to do well, and so I'm glad I found that. I get really nervous when I'm afraid that I'm gonna screw up your builds. That's why I'm a big stickler on making sure you have good workshop pages, and why I grade that is I hate it when I screw up testing your build because I did something wrong. And if you put, hey, do this, and I did it wrong, it's my fault. If you don't have a good example, if you don't explain to me what I'm supposed to be doing, it's really not my fault because I'm having to guess how you built something. If you spend 100 hours on something and you intimately know how it operates, and I'm having to guess, that's an issue. So, um, unless I missed the ballast tank, you see we're sitting a little bit bow heavy. Not bad. It's not too bad. I'm not going to gank at any points on that. See, when we stop, we sit a little bit bow down, but that's not bad. We're actually pretty good. So that's good. Pretty good leveling there. I'm actually kind of surprised that you'd think that is pretty far forward, but you also look, we have quite a big transom, so I bet the center of gravity is actually pretty good there. All right, so it's nice and stable. A little sluggish, which is actually good. Sluggish gives it that stability, like I said. Stability is how you turn. You're making something unstable to be able to turn. So this seems to be handling pretty well. Okay, we're going to beam the waves. That's going to be the most dangerous, and we're not rolling over. So again, you're not being compared to everything in the world. You're being compared to your competitors, and as you notice, some of your competitors went upside down. They're going to, of course, get the lowest scores on stability. And you have competitors who stayed perfectly upright. They're going to get the higher scores on stability. So it doesn't have to be super specific. It's just, I'm grading it along with your competitors. So the person who has the best stability is getting a 10. The person who's, the least stability is going to get a lower score. I might gank them a little bit to show that the stability is not perfect. Those tires are just sitting there. I don't know if you intended for the tires to sit there, but they're sliding around. They're not merged. But as you can see, this is not flipping over. We had other builds that flipped over. So this is working well. All right, good. So I enjoyed this build. Thanks for posting it. All right, so as with most of these challenges, there are 3 ways to win. There is the points winner, there's captain's favorite, and there's the community favorite. So after the video comes out, we'll go ahead and put out community favorite, and that will come later. But so the first one's going to be points. So I've tallied up the points here. Unfortunately, again, we have 1 disqualification. I really hate having disqualifications, but just have to do it. It's not fair to the other people if I don't. So, Mr. Black Beaver, Spirit of the Challenge, everybody got 10s except the DQ. I didn't even count the DQ for that. Didn't put in points for the DQ, but everybody got Spirit of the Challenge. Nobody was trying to get around the rules. Nobody was making a plane that, so it could go 200 knots and it flew above the water. That's Spirit of the Challenge. It was supposed to be a beginner base tanker. We had some issues with people trying to make boats that were going to be larger than the beginner base, and those would have lost on Spirit of the Challenge. But everybody confined their boats to the beginner base. Everybody built a tanker. So everybody got 10s on Spirit of the Challenge, thankfully. Human factors, they were close. A couple issues here and there, some mislabeling stuff, but everybody got some 9s or 8s. So nobody, actually, there was 1 that had a human factors issue. That was Captain Leroy's Tubby, and that was because the ship was driving itself. Also had some issues with, I believe, some labeling of things, and I had to figure some stuff out on my own. So I was having to try to figure out how to operate the vehicle too much. But there was also the big human factors thing that really lost you a lot of points was the ship drove itself. That's very dangerous. You wouldn't want to start up a ship and have it just go. Not safe. So I'd like you to see, get your drive system fixed on that. But human factors were all pretty close. Capacity, what I did was I went through, I put in all the capacities, and then I just ranked them. So greatest capacity, least capacity. So, Captain Leroy had the largest capacity. He got 10. Second largest capacity got 9, all the way down to the lowest capacity, which got a 5. And so that was just ranking them that way. Stabilities, workshop page, and total. So let's go through each one. We'll go from lowest to highest here. So we had 2 in with 35 points. We had Captain Leroy. Everybody got Spirit of the Challenge at 10. The human factors really killed you on this one. Again, the ship drove by itself. It just moved, and so that's not safe. Also had some other issues with that you can see in the video. Capacity, you had the best capacity though. So, you know, part of this and why I try to have a lot of categories is you might not do so well at one item, but you can make up for it somewhere else. So some of your engineering things were problematic, but you were able to make up with it on capacity. Stability, you lost a lot of points in stability. Yours was the least stable. I was rolling over, I was flying, I was literally doing backflips. So I gave you a 2 on that, and that might have been a little generous compared to some of the other people's. Workshop page was an 8. Total is 35. Second with 35 is Bruce. Human factors is 8. Just a little issues here and there you can see in the video. You had the lowest capacity, so that hurt you a little bit having that low capacity. Your stability was really good. Your workshop page left a lot to be desired. So one of the things is you can see where you could do some improvement here. If your workshop page was stellar, you would have had another 7 points. You would have been up in the top numbers. So workshop page can be important. So there's 35 points. Next we have 2 tied with 40. We have the FOD. 8 human factors. Fuel capacity, you had the second highest fuel capacity, so that helped you. Your stability, you lost a lot in stability. I rolled it over, so your capacity helped keep your numbers high. You know, so you lost a lot in stability, but you gained some back in fuel capacity. You had one of the best workshop pages, so that also helped you. So as you can see, if you you know, these areas bring up your score quite a bit. 40. Cheesecake, you had 8 on human factors. You had 8 on capacity, 9 on stability. Workshop page was a 5. Again, you know, you can see right here how you could easily have knocked that up with a little bit better workshop page. 40 there. Going from there, we have second place on points, which is Mr. Black Beaver. Human factors was 9. You had one of the lower capacities, second lowest, I believe. So you got 6 points on that. Stability, you had really good stability. Rock solid in all facets, so that was really good. Workshop page wasn't the best, but it wasn't bad. So at 8, and so that got you up there. So you see, this was consistency. Consistency for Mr. Black Beaver. Got him in a second place. Human factors was high. Fluid capacity was on the low end, but still reasonable. Stability was really good. Workshop page was pretty good. So you can see how consistency is going to get you up on points. The number 1 for the points is Thermite. 9 on human factors, 7 on capacity, so about mid-range on capacity. Stability was good at a 9. Workshop page was good at a 9. Thermite does a good job at putting in stories, making me laugh. Kind of has, you know, a good story that makes you want to read the workshop page. You see a lot of workshop pages are very verbose, have lots of stuff, and you're like, oh, I don't want to read through all this. Thermite does a good job at making it so that you want to read through all that. So that helped get Thermite some extra points there. And so we had a total of 44 points. So Thermite is our points winner. Right, and the next category for a winner is going to be Captain's Favorite. So let's quickly look through all these. So this is Thermites. I really like the detail in the story in the workshop about this. I really like if you go in here to the engine room, you can see we have all these funny do not let bare wires, all that. I really like having the voltage symbol that tells you right where the electrical panel is, like the diesel tanks. I like that quite a bit. A little bit basic in here. Could use a little bit more detailing in there, but it's not a big deal. A little bit of, could use a little bit of detailing here and there. Nice to see a little table in there. Let's go on to this one here. This one, a little bit basic, a little bit square. Asymmetry is something different and a little bit interesting. I didn't like the handle. Climbing out of the handle was tedious, where like putting a ladder here, you could easily climb out. That'd be nice. I don't like the fact that you have to rev up the engine and then engage the clutch. I would like that to be kind of done automatically. My preference is also when you put the throttle in reverse, you go backwards, but that's preference. I like Mr. Black Beavers a lot. It got the second in points. It just overall it had a lot of categories going for it. It was very stable. Had a pretty good workshop page. Has a pretty good capacity. It wasn't the best at anything really, but it was consistent throughout. I like the no safety smoking first sign. I like the details here for you know, your tankage. It was nice. I like this panel here. It was nice and easy to operate. It was convenient. If we go down here, it's a little bit weird having all this glass for your tanks. I'm not a huge fan of that. You know, that's kind of gimmicky. I would personally fill this center section up and you know, and just put more capacity, but that's just me. I like the engine starts procedures a lot. That, you know, it had to go through a startup procedure. That's cool. I like little window details in here. A little less sawtooth probably in the back would be nice. But overall, I like that. I like the pixelation on there. But it was very stable, which was nice to see. Next, we have Tuggy here. Tuggy is not one of the lookers, let's put it that way. Tuggy is just a square box. Tuggy sacrificed in many other categories for capacity. Tuggy was #1 capacity, and as you can see, it shows. It's just a big square. So I'd like to see a little bit more shaping and detailing, you know. The reason I have 3 different win categories is points, captain's favorite, community favorite, is you might say, hey, I don't care about points. I'd rather get, you know, one of the other categories, so I'm not going to worry about capacity. I'm going to make the ship look nice. And so I'm not a huge fan of the way this one looks. It's a little bit cartoony. It's not bad, but like in here, there's not much detailing at all. You know, you just have a couple beds thrown in there. A little bit of detailing would have been nice. I think the ladders are innovative. That's kind of neat to be able to walk up and down. Next, we have Spud. Spud was in my running for favorite. I really like the shaping of it, the design. I like having the little back sleeping area and having the front. Really cool roof line on this. It takes a square build and it makes it look much more interesting, which is a challenge. I really like the tanks here for the ballast and the commodities tank. I like going through the different menus here. That's neat. I really like the paint scheme. The one thing that kind of killed it for me is this. It is loud as hell. It's going to 60 RPS. I literally run most of my ships up to a maximum of 5 RPS. And so this thing is screaming, and the only way this would be tolerable is if you're sitting in the seat. And there's no reason this needs to be up like this, because when you go, it goes down. So what I would do is this to make this not scream like this, so you don't need a headset, is go max speed in the boat. It's going to tell you your engine's going to go to a certain speed, say 10 RPS. Then cap it at 10 RPS. Don't cap it at 60. There's no reason this should be up at 60. It's just yelling at me, and it's burning a ton of fuel just sitting here. And I can't stand it if I'm not sitting in that seat. Next one that was close for my favorite was Bruce's here. I really like the design of it. I think it's a little bit weird. You have your sleeping quarters in with your engine. I thought this was neat, having these hanging clothes. I'm curious if that's going to cause any issues if they clip into each other. But really nice design. Another quick issue I had with Spud that took Spud out of the running for me was stability. It rolled all the way over for me. You know, so I'd be afraid, like if I was to take one of these in my own game and go transfer some oil, if I put in 10 hours of getting that oil, especially with the new oil update, and I was going to pick a ship to go pick up that valuable oil that I just spent all this time getting, I'd be terrified that Spud would roll over on me and I'd lose it. The reason I bring that up is Bruce's here had a little bit of stability issue. It wasn't bad. Tubby had really bad stability issues. Tubby had the worst stability issues. I would not want to take either of these with oil. It would scare me that these are going to have problems. So Spud could easily be fixed with putting some fins on those azipods like I do with my tugboat. You can check the career build series. I show how to do that. And also putting the linear speed on the stern. You can limit the angle of those azipods when you're going faster, and it won't roll over. Bruce's had good shape here. Really nice shape on this one. It looks pretty conventional and nice. I like that. It went with azipods, but they're pretty good. Really nice detailing on this. This was definitely in my running for my favorite, but I think my favorite is going to go to Mr. Black Beavers, and I think that's for consistency. It was consistently good in all its categories. It actually had the second highest in points. You know, it has a nice pixelation on there. Like I said, there are some things I'm not thrilled with. I think Bruce's is a much better looker, you know, overall design-wise. But I think this one had a cool startup procedure. I like this basic dash in here. You know, I like the mast on it. None of them had really accurate, you know, 100% accurate lighting. Didn't have like anchorage and all that. But sadly, probably what would have been my favorite was the DQ. I really liked Citrus's, the best as far as looks. That looked really good. I was super excited reviewing that, and then it broke my heart when I went through and I saw the rocket motors in there, and I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna have to DQ this. So Citrus's would have been my favorite if not for the disqualification. So that one breaking of the rules caused that to be disqualified, and that took it out of my favorite. So unfortunately, so Mr. Black Beaver, congratulations, you win my favorite on this one. The favorite was really hard. I would say the three that I had this narrowed down to were Spud, Bruce's, and Mr. Black Beaver's. Spud, I couldn't give it to Spud because of the engine screaming at me and because it was rolling over. Bruce's was a tough call here. I was thinking of Bruce's here. You know, if I look back at the points on that one, that lost out on capacity. And so, you know, it looks really cool. It functioned really well, but it had the lowest capacity. And so losing out on capacity was like, it's great looking great out there trying to move oil, but the problem is I can't move much oil. You know, for example, Mr. Black Beavers was just above that, but it had another 9,000 liters of capacity. You know, so that one lost a little bit out on that. Great, good workshop page on there. This one was definitely tough for me to pick a favorite on. It really was. And so the next part is up to you guys. So the third way to win is community's favorite. As soon as the video comes out, I'll put up voting, and you guys can vote on which ones you like. And again, it broke my heart that I had to disqualify one second challenge in a row. Unfortunately, it's not fair to the other competitors if somebody doesn't follow a rule, and they do. Next part is going to be up to you guys, and you can vote on which one of these is your favorite. Thanks for watching. Bye.